Birthdays are supposed to be filled with joy, laughter, and love. But what if the one day meant to be special turns into something completely unexpected, something life-changing? Birthdays are supposed to be magical, a day where everything feels just right. But what if, instead of joy, the day brings something completely unexpected, something unsettling? I woke up with a smile, stretching as the golden morning light seeped through my curtains. Today was my day. Nothing could go wrong, or at least that's what I thought. I had planned every detail, a dinner with my closest friends, my favourite cake, a night filled with laughter. It was meant to be perfect, but sometimes life doesn't care about our plans. As I reached for my phone, excitement bubbled inside me. Dozens of notifications lit up the screen. Friends, family, even people I hadn't spoken to in years, all wishing me a happy birthday. But as I scrolled, my smile slowly faded. One name was missing. My fingers hovered over my contacts, my chest tightening. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe they'd call later. But deep down, I knew better. I shook off the feeling. Not today. I refused to let anything ruin this. But then, something strange happened. The lights in my room flickered. Just for a second, a small, almost unnoticeable glitch. I brushed it off. Probably nothing. I went to the mirror, fixing my hair, hyping myself up for the night ahead. But as I turned away, I swear I saw something move behind me. A shadow. I spun back, my heart hammering. Nothing was there, just my own reflection staring back at me. I let out a nervous laugh, shaking my head. Relax, you're overthinking. But deep inside, something didn't feel right, and I had no idea that this birthday would change everything. I thought I had everything under control. The world was supposed to be on my side today. But when I went to plug in the lights, something bizarre happened. The power went out. Just like that. At first I didn't think much of it. Maybe a fuse blew. No big deal. But then I looked outside. The whole street was brightly lit, the houses glowing like warm little beacons. My house, dark, just dark. I walked over to the window, peering out, my heart beating faster. That's weird. The neighbourhood was quiet, almost too quiet. The hum of electricity was absent, and in the stillness, every sound seemed amplified. The rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant sound of dogs barking, the faint hum of a car engine in the distance. But there was something off, something that made the air feel thick, heavy. My pulse quickened as I glanced back at the living room, now lit only by the dim light of a few candles I had scattered around. I forced myself to laugh it off. It's probably nothing, just a weird glitch. But still the tension crept in like a shadow, pulling at the edges of my calm. I grabbed my phone to check the time. Still plenty of hours before everyone would start arriving for dinner. No need to worry, they'll be here soon enough. And the lights will come back on. But then my phone buzzed. A message. From someone I didn't expect. I clicked on the notification, my eyes narrowing. The name on the screen was one I hadn't seen in years. The message was simple. Happy birthday. I know it's been a while. My breath caught. No way, it was from him. The one person who had vanished from my life without a trace. A ghost from the past. I hadn't heard from him in ages. And here he was, sending a message on my birthday, as if everything had just been normal. I stared at the screen, the words feeling like a punch to the gut. Why now? I opened the message, typing my response slowly. Why are you reaching out after all this time? Seconds ticked by, no reply. The phone sat there, as silent as the rest of the world outside. I felt an odd sense of unease creep up my spine. The world around me seemed to be pressing in, the silence thickening. Suddenly the room felt smaller, as if the walls were closing in. The power hadn't come back on, the air in the house felt charged, and the weight of his message still hung in the air like a dark cloud. I put my phone down, trying to steady my breath, to ground myself. "You're overreacting. He's probably just checking in. It doesn't mean anything." But then, before I could push the thoughts away, my phone buzzed again. A call. His name flashed across the screen. My fingers hesitated above the screen. No way. Not today. But there it was. A call from him. I couldn't ignore it. Something inside me told me that this was a moment I would regret if I didn't pick up. I swiped to answer, holding the phone to my ear, feeling a strange, bitter taste in my mouth. "Hello?" My voice was shaky. His voice came through clear, but there was a quiet, unfamiliar tension in it. "I didn't know if I should call. I've been thinking about you. A lot." My throat went dry. What was happening? Why now? "Why are you calling me? After all this time, what's the point?" I heard him sigh on the other end. His voice softened. "I know it sounds crazy, but I needed to reach out. It's been years, I get that, but something's been weighing on me and I need to explain." I felt a knot form in my stomach. This wasn't right. This wasn't how my birthday was supposed to go. "Explain what?" I asked, trying to sound calmer than I felt. He paused for a moment, as if trying to find the right words. "I made a mistake. I left without a word, and I never gave you a reason. But there's something you don't know. Something I have to tell you, and I know I should have done it sooner, but I couldn't until today." My heart started to pound harder. What was this? Why now? The room felt even darker. I wasn't sure if it was the lack of power or if it was just the weight of his words. His voice grew more urgent. "I need to see you tonight. It's important." "Tonight?" I shook my head, confused. "I don't understand. Why are you doing this now? Why on my birthday?" His voice was soft, almost pleading. "I never meant for it to be like this. Can we meet? Please, I need to explain." The tension in my chest grew tighter. My mind was racing, but all I could focus on was the sound of his voice. And then it hit me. I couldn't ignore this. I glanced at the clock. My friends would be arriving any minute. I had planned the night to be perfect, but now it felt like the world had shifted beneath me. I felt a surge of emotions, anger, confusion, longing, and fear, all mixed together in a strange, dizzying cocktail. This wasn't how I had imagined the night unfolding. Not in a million years. But somehow I knew this call was just the beginning of something much bigger, and I had no idea how deep it was about to get. I stood frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear as his words lingered in the air like a heavy fog. "I need to see you tonight." The night that was supposed to be my escape, a celebration of the years gone by, had suddenly twisted into something darker, something I couldn't quite understand. I wasn't sure what to say. I could feel my pulse racing, my thoughts scattered. Why did he want to see me now, after all this time? I don't understand, I finally managed to say, my voice shaking. "Why now?" "You left without a word, disappeared. You can't just show up and expect everything to be okay." There was a long pause. I could almost hear him thinking, searching for the right way to explain something that had haunted both of us for years. "I know I can't undo what happened," he said quietly. "But I need to say the things I couldn't say back then. I was scared. I didn't know how to deal with it. But now I realize I have to face it. I have to face you." His words cut through the air like a blade. The emotions I had buried deep in my heart began to resurface. Anger, hurt, betrayal. But underneath that, there was something else. Something I wasn't ready to admit. A part of me still wanted to hear him out. "What are you saying?" My voice came out softer than I intended. and I cursed myself for it. "I'm saying I made a mistake," he replied, his voice thick with regret. "And I'm asking for a chance to explain. You deserve that, at least. I owe you that much." I closed my eyes, shaking my head. The room felt suffocating, the weight of his words too much to carry alone. Was he serious? After everything, after years of silence, he was asking for a chance. I thought of the years that had passed since he left, years filled with unanswered questions, late-night tears, the quiet ache of a broken heart that never fully healed. All of that, and now this. I wanted to say no. I wanted to hang up and forget this ever happened. But something deep inside, told me I had to listen. "Where are you?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop myself. A breath of relief on the other end. "I'm close. I can be there in 20 minutes. Can we meet at the park?" The park. The place we used to go when we were younger, when everything felt simpler. The place where we once promised we would never let go of each other. It felt like a lifetime ago. I glanced at the clock. My friends were about to arrive. I had an entire night planned. My perfect birthday. The night I had looked forward to for months. But now, all of it felt irrelevant. Nothing else mattered. I grabbed my coat, slipping it on, my heart pounding. My fingers trembled as I typed a quick message to my friends, telling them I needed a few minutes. I couldn't explain, couldn't tell them why I had to leave, why I was suddenly changing the course of the night. I just had to go. I didn't even think about it. I just did it. As I stepped out the door, I felt the cold air rush over me, the weight of the decision settling in. The darkness outside seemed to mirror the chaos inside my mind. The park was only a few blocks away. I walked faster than usual, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the silence. The trees loomed overhead, casting long shadows across the path. My thoughts were a whirlpool of emotions, confusion, anger, curiosity. But more than anything, I felt like I was on the edge of something big, something that would change everything. When I reached the park, I stood by the entrance for a moment, taking in the stillness of the night, the faint sounds of distant traffic, the rustling of leaves in the wind. It all felt so normal, so quiet, yet I knew that nothing was normal about this. Nothing would ever be normal again. Then I saw him. He was standing by the old oak tree, the one where we used to meet when we were younger, the one that held all our memories. He looked just the same, yet somehow different. There was a heaviness about him now, a weight that hadn't been there before. I felt a strange mix of anger and relief flood through me. I wanted to turn around and leave, but I couldn't. I had to know what he was going to say. He stepped forward, his eyes locking with mine, and for the first time in years, I saw the same person I once knew, the same person who had made me laugh, who had promised to always be there. But the years between us had changed everything. "Thank you for coming," he said softly, almost apologetically. "I know I don't deserve it." I crossed my arms, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Why did you leave?" "You just disappeared. No explanation, no closure." He swallowed hard, looking down for a moment, as if gathering the courage to speak. "I was scared. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I left because I thought it was easier than facing the truth. But I was running away from myself, and I've regretted it every day. The truth hit me like a wave crashing over everything I thought I knew. I had spent years wondering, waiting, and now here it was. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words stuck in my throat. And just like that, I realized something. The past wasn't just behind me. It was here. And it was pulling me in, no matter how hard I tried to fight it. The air between us felt thick, charged with 1,000 unspoken words. I stood there, barely breathing, staring at him as if he were a stranger, but I knew him too well. We had shared so much, and yet now, in this moment, I didn't know who he was anymore. He took a slow step closer, his eyes locked on mine. "I'm sorry," he whispered, almost like a confession. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know the truth." His voice cracked, and it was in that moment that I realized something. He wasn't the same person who left me all those years ago. There was something in his eyes that spoke of pain, regret, and the weight of years spent running from his own mistakes. "Truth?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. My chest felt tight. "What truth?" He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "The truth is, I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because I was scared of what I was feeling, scared of how deep it went. And I thought I could just walk away and forget about you, forget about us." He paused, his words hanging heavy in the night air. "But I couldn't. Not a day went by that I didn't think about you." I swallowed hard, trying to make sense of what he was saying. He was telling me the truth now, after all these years. Was it enough? Did it even matter anymore? "You think that changes everything," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "You think saying you were scared makes up for the years I spent wondering why you just vanished, for the nights I cried myself to sleep, hoping you'd come back. You left me with nothing, no explanation, no reason, just silence." The bitterness in my voice was a taste I hadn't realized had built up inside me all these years. The anger, the pain, it had always been there, but I had buried it, convinced that time would heal it. But time didn't heal anything. It just made the scars deeper, more permanent. "I know," his voice was low, regretful. "I know I can't take back what I did. I can't fix the years we lost. But I need you to know that I was wrong." He took another step forward, his hand shaking slightly as he reached out like he was afraid I'd pull away. My body stiffened at the gesture. How could I let him touch me again, after everything? But still, despite the anger swirling inside me, I couldn't look away. His eyes, they were full of something real now. Something that I had once seen, something I had once believed in. But was it too late? "I thought if I walked away," he continued, his voice thick with emotion, "it would be easier, but it wasn't. I spent all these years running from the truth, and now here I am, finally facing it." I took a deep breath, my chest tightening with a mixture of anger and something I couldn't quite identify. Was I supposed to just forgive him? "Why now?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Why, after all this time? Why on my birthday?" His eyes softened, and for a moment I saw a flicker of vulnerability in them, a side of him I hadn't seen before. "Because today is a reminder that time doesn't stop, and neither do the things we leave behind. I should have told you the truth years ago. I should have come back then, when you needed me most." He took a step back, letting out a shaky breath. "But I didn't. And now I'm asking you, can we start over? Can you at least give me the chance to make things right? Start over? Could I even do that? Could I just erase the years of hurt, the questions, the emptiness I had lived with?" I looked at him, my mind racing. I wanted to scream at him for what he had done. I wanted to run away and never see him again. But something inside me, something I didn't want to acknowledge, wanted to believe him. I shook my head, my thoughts a tangled mess. "You can't just show up after years of silence and expect everything to go back to normal. It doesn't work like that." He nodded slowly, accepting my anger without hesitation. I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm asking for one. I can't undo the past, but I can promise you that I'm not the same person I was back then. I've changed, and I'm ready to face whatever comes next, whether it's with you or without you." His words hung in the air, heavy and full of meaning. For a moment, everything around us seemed to fade away. The cold, the dark park, the distant sounds of the city. All I could hear was the steady beat of my heart, drowning out everything else. Could I forgive him? Could I trust him again? The truth, his truth, was like a weight in my chest, but it was also the answer I had been searching for all these years. The answer to the questions I had buried deep within myself. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say anything, I felt a sudden shift in the air. A subtle change, like the ground beneath me had shifted just a little. I looked up at him, my eyes meeting his. There was something in his gaze now, something darker, and in that moment I realized the truth he had been hiding wasn't just about his departure. There was more to this story, something he hadn't told me yet. I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear it, but one thing was certain: this night, this conversation, was only the beginning, and I had no idea where it would lead. The air between us thickened, the night suddenly feeling colder, heavier. My heart raced as I looked at him, his eyes no longer just filled with regret, but something darker, something I hadn't expected. I tried to speak, but the words got caught in my throat. The truth he had started to unravel felt incomplete, as if there was still a chapter missing. I took a step back, instinctively creating space between us. Something wasn't right. The past wasn't just haunting me, it was closing in, and I wasn't sure I was ready to face it. "What else?" I asked, my voice steady, though every fibre of my being screamed to run. "What haven't you told me?" He stiffened, his gaze momentarily flickering to the ground. I could see the conflict on his face, torn between the truth he wanted to tell and the one he was holding back. For a split second I wondered if I had made a mistake. Maybe some things were better left unsaid. But then his voice broke the silence, shaking with the weight of what he was about to say. "There's more, something I should have told you years ago, but I couldn't. I was too afraid." I felt a chill creep down my spine. "Afraid of what?" He swallowed hard, meeting my eyes again. "It's about what happened the night I left, about the reason I disappeared so suddenly." His breath hitched. "I didn't just leave because I was scared of our relationship. There was something else, something dangerous." I felt the ground shift beneath me. Dangerous? My stomach churned as I stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" He hesitated, his voice barely a whisper. "I wasn't just running from you or from what we had. I was running from them, from people who wanted me to do things I couldn't, things I knew were wrong. And when I got too close, they found me. They found us." My mind reeled. "Us," I repeated. "What do you mean?" "Who are they?" He looked away, his face paling. "I don't know how to explain it, but I got mixed up with the wrong crowd. People I thought I could trust. They had connections, power." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. "When I started pulling away, trying to get out, that's when they found out. They threatened me, and they threatened you." My heart skipped a beat. "Threatened me? How could they possibly?" But before I could finish, he cut me off. "I couldn't risk it. I couldn't let them hurt you, not for my mistakes." His voice cracked. "So I made the decision. I left, I disappeared. I thought if I cut all ties, they would leave you alone." The weight of his words hit me like a freight train. I was paralyzed, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what he was saying. My birthday, this night that was supposed to bring clarity, had turned into something I couldn't escape. "You left to protect me?" My voice barely made it out. He nodded, guilt written all over his face. But it wasn't enough. I should have told you. I should have found a way to fight back, to keep you safe. His eyes grew darker, more haunted. But I was too weak, too afraid. And now they're back. They never stopped watching me, watching you. A cold chill ran down my spine. My mind raced. Who were these people? Why were they targeting us? My legs felt weak, and I reached out, gripping a nearby bench for support. What do you mean, they're back? Who are these people? He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. I don't know everything, but they're dangerous, and they want something from me. They always have. But it's not just me they want anymore. My pulse quickened. What do they want? He hesitated, his eyes flickering with fear. They want you. I took a step back, the world spinning around me. Me? Why? What did they want with me? His words hit like a blow to the chest. I never meant to drag you into this, but now it's too late. They know where you are, and they're coming. I felt the ground beneath me tilt, my breath coming in shallow gasps. Number, no, this can't be happening, not now. He grabbed my arm, his grip tight and desperate. I should have protected you, I should have never left. But I'll do whatever it takes now, please. We need to go. They'll come for you if we stay here. I didn't know what to do. My body moved on its own, following him as he pulled me toward the park's edge. My mind screamed for answers, but there were no more answers, only the truth, a truth too horrifying to fully grasp. I wasn't just caught in the past. The past had caught up to me, and it was about to change everything. We ran, though I didn't know where we were going. The streets blurred around me, my heart pounding in my chest, every footstep feeling like the last before we were overtaken. I could hear the sound of someone chasing us, footsteps too close, too fast. I glanced over at him, my breath ragged. What now? What do we do? His face was pale, eyes wide with fear. We have to keep moving, they're always watching. We need to get to a safe place. But where was safe? The more we ran, the more I realized there was no safe place. Not anymore. And then, as if from the shadows, I saw them. Figures emerging from the dark corners of the park, moving toward us. Cold, calculating. They had found us. The world around me went silent. The last thing I heard was his voice, shaky and desperate, barely audible above the growing sound of footsteps closing in. I'm sorry, I never meant for this to happen, but we can't escape now. We're already too deep. And as the darkness consumed us, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. My birthday wasn't just a turning point. It was the beginning of something far worse than I could ever imagine.